passion.
Just like to hear it.
Love it.
Welcome to Whitlock Garage. Appreciate you tuning in. Obviously, we are united by trucks, and today we are here to talk about Pecos. TTR, 2 trucks runs, 84 Squarebody GMC that we just recently LS swapped. Fresh cold one for the for the remainder of the Q&A. All right, so we're jumping in on the Instagram questions now, and we got the first one from Pete Cabover, and he says, "Why leave the mechanical fan?" This is one of my favorite questions because I do this too.
Yeah. I personally want to upgrade to the Tejas and the 13-inch Spall fans. We were trying to get the truck ready for C10 and the price of fans, and then trying to get the shroud and all that in time. We had so many other things to worry about that the last thing I wanted to worry about was fans. Mechanical fan works now. It got us there, got us back. It will be changed out. So
kept that Yukon cool for 265,000 miles.
It did.
All right, so there's definitely a couple of gauges on the original cluster that you can get to work once you do the LS swap. Obviously, Ron talked about going Dakota Digitals. I think Classic Instruments also make some, but there's definitely some other options to swap out the gauges. You can get by with what you got, but you're not going to have speedo and things like that unless you do the VSS adapter, which is a couple $100. Soup C10, my good buddy Jason, he wants to know, what did you have to do to your saddle tank to upgrade to an LS engine? Just really quickly, Jason, Ron did the Tanks Inc. tank with a Walbro 255 in-tank pump and a new line and fitting kit. So it's a new tank, new pump, new sender, new lines. So that's what we did. But like I said before, there are some OEM and GM ways that you can run the same type of system using the 87 fuel tank and just grafting the Walbro 255 onto the sender pump setup in that tank.
For the guys who do have dual tanks, Tanks Inc. does make a kit that allows you to run both tanks.
That's awesome. That would make sense. Yeah, and Rick's actually got 2 tanks on his, and he never stops for gas.
No. At least not with us.
Yeah, not with us anyway. That man could drive from here to here to Indiana and never stop. All-American C10 wants to know, what are you going to put the 305 SBC and 700 R4 out of Pecos into? Funny story, if you don't know this, I bought the 305 and 700 R4 from Ron. The 700 R4 is actually going to be used in a buddy's patina truck. His name's Hot Rod Kev. Original Boys Class 6 is their Instagram name. And he bought the 700 R4 to be used in one of his 6772 trucks. That truck's going to be killer, by the way. And then the 305 is actually going in our K5 project. So probably one of the next tutorials or how-tos or motor swaps that you see is going to be us swapping a 305 into the K5. And it's the 305 out of Pecos. 86 C10 Life wants to know, did you use the drive shaft from the C10 or the donor vehicle?
I used it from the donor.
Yeah. Which is an interesting thing. I wouldn't have done that probably. I probably would have just used the drive shaft from the truck, shortened it or lengthened it or whatever it needed, and put a different yoke on it. But you went the opposite route.
I did. I go the opposite route. Well, you got the original drive shaft with your motor and trailer.
That's true. I did.
So and I already had one, so it worked out really for both of us. Either way, it would have had to been lengthened, so it really didn't matter. It fit.
Yep.
I did the job. Is what it is.
Yeah, and Drive Shaft Services in Marietta, Georgia is the one who hooked us up with that. He basically re-sleeved the drive shaft when he lengthened it, balanced it, made sure the U-joints were good, the yoke was good. We slapped that bad boy in here. It was perfect. The Rowdy Renfro's wants to know, he says this is the big question to C10 owners. Should he LS swap? If so, what level? Like, how far should he take it? Should he keep it stock, or should he do the Texas speed treatment? What do you think?
Should you LS swap? 1,
yeah.
Yes. Yes, you should.
I dig it.
Yes, you should. 2, I would speak to your wife first about number 2. About how far to take it. You can burn a hole in your pocket fast.
You can spend whatever you want.
At Texas Speed. Those guys were great. Like I said, in the first video, a lot of guys, I don't know if they caught it or whatever, but I actually picked up my cam kit, everything when we were in Texas. Before I knew I had the truck, but I just didn't know it wasn't here yet.
Yeah.
So I picked all that stuff up. Those guys are great out there. I mean, you can go from, hey man, I just need some lifters to put in this thing, to all the way to, I want a re-sleeve 427. I mean, those guys were awesome. They showed us around their whole facility. It was super cool. You can burn a hole in your pocket fast.
Yeah. You can spend real money. And if you want to see what some Texas Speed goodness looks like, I know you guys are probably already watching Cletus McFarland's channel, but he runs a ton of Texas Speed stuff, whether it's blocks, heads. I mean, he just full gamut. So if you want to see some of that really awesome Texas Speed, high dollar stuff, definitely go check out Cletus McFarland's channel.
To really answer the question, should you go that level? I think that you should figure out what you want out of your truck,
what your goals are.
What your goals are, and go from there. I wanted a really, really fun truck to drive, a really fun street setup, but something that was still really reliable.
Yeah.
Something that wasn't just super rowdy, super crazy. So for me, the setup that I went with, I actually was going to go with like a stage 1 or possibly even a stage 2 cam.
Yep.
But after talking to the guys there at Texas Speed, they said, why not just jump up and put the 3 in it?
Yeah.
It really doesn't take that much more. Your stall was going to be the same. A stage 2 or a stage 3, they still said,
require the same converter or a similar converter.
You probably could get away with a stock converter, but it's just not going to be the best.
Yeah.
And like we talked about, with $265,000 on the motor and trans, the trans was rebuilt, so why not put a new converter in it? You're already there. That was my thinking on the whole thing. I was already there. It was already out. I was already into it. Just go ahead and do it.
Yeah, makes sense to me. And another thing that I think is a good point about this specific setup is you drive this truck daily. I mean, you drive it every day.
Nearly.
Or just about every day.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say that it is your only truck. I mean, your 2 trucks run. You got another truck. Mm-hmm. But you can drive this truck every day if you want to. And I think for the most part you have been, right?
Yeah, I think there's been about 4 days since Alex did his thing that I haven't driven it.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's really cool. ZZ3 Guy 1 on Instagram wants to know, what could you have done to make the swap more economical for someone on a tight budget? And I think we've talked around this and talked about this quite a bit throughout this Q&A, but I'll just say he could probably have gone a more economical route on the fuel system. He definitely could have gone a more economical route on the converter, the camshaft. I would say that's about it. I mean, basically, some of the other stuff that he did, cost a few extra dollars, but for the most part, you did what it takes to do a stock LS swap and just, brought it up to the next level with some of those upgrades.
I could have just put it in and ran with it and all that, but you're already there. I'm not made of money, but my thinking is I had a budget in mind. And then I got to thinking about later on down the road how it would be.
Yep.
I know I've heard you mention a couple times that you during your swap you wish you had done a couple this different,
that,
or if you had done this during that. And so I really got to thinking about it while I was on a budget, and I really wanted to I got to thinking, do I want to stick to a budget, or at the end of the day do I want my truck to be right?
Yeah.
And I didn't just go buck wild with it.
No, not by any
means.
But
I think at the end of the day, my truck is right.
Yeah. And you spent the money in the right places.
I spent the money in the right places. So that's that's what I went to the side of is, at the end of the day, I want to be able to jump in this truck, have fun in it, drive it, enjoy it, and not say, well, I did it for this dollar amount.
Yeah. That's a great point. All right, so we got a couple of questions left. So I may answer some of them. I may give them to Ron, but right now I'm going to give Jackson a break. Jack, you need a minute? You need a minute?
Yeah.
Okay. You look like you needed a minute. Cheers, brother.
Cheers.
Cheers to Pecos.
I'll drink to that any day.
So Ryan Wooters wants to know total budget on truck. Now, obviously we're not going to answer the total budget on the truck. This is Ron's truck. We don't want to talk about what he paid for it. We don't talk about what he's got in it. But what we will talk about is some of the basic concepts and basic prices around LS swapping a square body. So what I've done is I've gone through and taken a look at the list that we put in the description of the first LS swap video and totaled up some of those numbers, and particularly took a second look at what that cost is like in relation to Pecos specifically. What I'm going to do is talk about some of the hard parts that are listed in the description in the first LS swap video. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll link that video right here so you can go check that out. Look down in the description. There's a long list, some with part numbers, definitely with descriptions and prices there. But we're about $2,500 in hard parts. So that includes the wiring harness, that includes the long tube headers, does not include full exhaust, so just note that this truck already had exhaust on it, so you can factor in a couple of $100 more. But that includes it runs the gamut, whether it's gaskets, spark plugs, plug wires, all sorts of stuff like that it takes to LS swap one of these square bodies. Outside of that cost, there's roughly about $500 in tuning and wiring. That can fluctuate depending on tuner, but that's about what that costs. Obviously, cost of engine and trans is not included, and then no labor cost. We do most of our own work outside of the wiring and tuning, so we're able to absorb that labor cost. Is there anything you want to add on that front?
Well, in the list too, it doesn't include any of the parts from like Texas Speed and all that. I mean, you got to remember that cam kit alone is going to set you back.
Yeah. So and that's a great point. What I'm specifically talking about is what it takes to LS swap one of these trucks.
Exactly.
Yeah. So if you're going to do the upgrades like the cam, the converter, the trunnion upgrade, if you're going to get into all that, the fan shroud electric fans, if you're going to get into all that, I mean, you can start tacking on a lot of dollars. I think that once you get the engine and trans and figure out if you're going to pay somebody to do it or if you're going to do it on your own, you can look at that $2,500 number as a pretty safe number to say, it's going to take that on top of the engine and trans for me to make this happen. Now, if you want to take and do a bunch of performance upgrades on top of that, you're going to spend more, just like you did with Texas Speed.
Yeah.
And Circle D.
Yeah. Worth every penny, though.
Absolutely. Mitchell Howell on Instagram wants to know, were the new lifters and push rods necessary for that cam? If not, why did you choose that setup?
I don't think that the lifters and the push rods were necessary. The push rod length is the exact same as the factory length. One thing to keep in mind with that, though, is the motor, I already had the heads off at the machine shop being milled.
Yep.
I had access to the lifters, so I put LS7 lifters in it.
Yep.
I was there. I also put new lifter trays. As far as push rods, again, we went with Texas Speed. We upgraded to their 5/16 push rods.
Mm-hmm.
So they're bigger push rods, same length, 7.4s.
Yep.
The oil galley in the middle is bigger, so it allows more flow through them. Were they necessary? No, but by the time you buy lifters and new push rods, off the top of my head, I don't even think it was another $150.
Yeah.
You were there at it.
Your motor had 265,000 miles on it. So if you're in there doing it and you got the extra $150, why not spend it right there to help that top end? Ephraim Bennett, who has become a good friend and someone I communicate with quite a bit on social media, he says, how many man hours did it actually take to do the swap from start to finish? And I know Ron has no idea, and I'm not sure I even have a good idea, but I will throw some just general numbers out there. The time that we were here shooting these videos was, it would take all day a lot of times, or it would take, early in the afternoon till well toward midnight. So I've got 6 hours of actual work in the first video, 5 in the second, 5 in the third, 10 in the fourth, because we spent all day working on this truck that day, up to the point where it fired up. Now, this is with 2 to 4 guys working at all times. We're working pretty consistently, and doesn't include Ron's time putting the motor together and some of those times where he worked a little bit later in the evening. So I think this is an important point to, you can total all that up. I don't even know what it is. So 10, 6, 16, 26 hours. And I think a shop will tell you it's definitely going to take 26 hours, 30 hours, 40 hours, maybe more. But I think this is a good point to say that when a shop wants to charge you for those hours, we can honestly say, as someone just here doing it in the garage with a couple of guys helping us out, that it definitely takes that 30-hour mark. I'm sure somebody in the comments is going to say that's not right, or it takes 60 hours, or I can do it in 10. But the way we did it, I even took out the filming time as best I could. That's what it took. It took 30 hours. A solid 30 hours of just real, actual swap time, from motor being in the truck, from the old SBC 700R4 to backing out of here with a 5.3 4L60E.
I have a lot of time to build the motor. But
absolutely. But you also took your time.
I took my time. I'm pretty stickler about it. And the thing, too, is, so a lot of people have asked, I've heard people say, I don't have a lot of time, or, my kid's this, my kid's that. I tried my best not to work on my motor while the kids are awake.
Yep.
Usually after about 9 o'clock, I'd come out here for a couple hours.
Yep.
Do what I got to do, figure out what I need for the next step, make sure I'm not missing anything, and then I keep going. So it takes a while when you just have those couple hour windows, but you'd be amazed at what you can knock out.
I agree completely, and it's an important point. You good?
Yep.
Okay. And it's an important point in that you needed to be methodical when putting the motor together. I mean, that's not something you want to mess up. We get all this in, you certainly don't want to take it back out, you know. So making sure that you had it right when you were putting the motor together is a paramount, you know, that's a thing that needs to be done. It takes tens of hours to make this happen.
It
and
takes a lot.
If you're doing it by yourself, it's going to take you longer. But we were fortunate enough to have friends like Rick and Alex and, of course, you and I and Kevin here to help make sure that stuff was getting done. So that's awesome. Okay, so Dusty L. Sims wants to know, if possible, explain how to marry the two wiring harnesses. Which wires will connect the new to old harness for the original gauges to work? So, as you all know, Alex Walker from Walker Tuned came in and assisted with all the wiring. That's just not something we're good at. Obviously, we can run a wiring harness on the engine and trans, a very easy thing to do. PSI makes it easy to do, but tying the two together is not something we wanted to tackle, especially in a short time frame. I personally just don't have a large understanding or a good understanding of how all that works. I do know it's a 4-wire hookup on the PSI harness, so it's not anything too crazy. I just don't know exactly how to do it, so Alex did that for us. We will probably have another video where Alex comes in and we talk a little bit more about some of the things that he does on these trucks, even if you didn't get enough out of already what he's explained in the other videos. So we know the oil pressure sensor gauge is adaptable. The temp gauge is also adaptable. Speedometer is
adaptable. They make
adaptable.
Alex said they make a thing where you can adapt it.
Yeah, it's a VSS adapter. I believe it's a couple $100. We do not have that for Pecos yet.
No, I want to jump up and get Dakota Digital.
Yeah, and go big. All right, so this is the point where we want to talk about really quickly some things that were helpful in us getting through this process and us getting through the process on Teddy when we did that last year, which we did not film at the time. We didn't have a YouTube channel at the time. It would have been so much fun to film that. There was a lot of tractor use in that swap. That was a lot of fun. There are two channels on YouTube that we've used during both of these swaps, Pecos and Teddy. I used 1980 LS K5, so I'll put that out right here. Also link his channel down in the description. He was swapping a K5 with an LS motor, trans. Obviously it's 4-wheel drive, so if you've got any 4-wheel drive questions, definitely want to check out his channel. And then Ron was checking out a channel called Scruff's Garage.
Scruff's Garage, yeah. He was building I believe he's building an LS1 for his Corvette. He's got a lot of cool little tips and tricks on there, a lot of different stuff. These LS motors are really, really straightforward. Yeah. The timing gear for the cam, it can only go on one way. From him is where I learned about the trick flow damper, because the early LS motors or the early 5.3s didn't have a damper on them. Yeah. Well, TrickFlow makes a retrofit kit to put a factory damper on it. Yep. So I saw it on his channel, and I ordered it, and I put it in mine. That's awesome. Yeah, so definitely we'll drop those links down to their channels in the description. Definitely want to go check those out. It's 1980 LS K5 and Scruff's Garage. With that, we're going to conclude this Q&A on Pecos. I hope you guys enjoyed that 4-part series. We'll link the entire playlist, the entire series where we LS swap this truck. We'll link that down in the description. But big thanks to Ron for paying for it all. At the end of the day, this was Ron's deal. Ron wanted to LS swap this truck, and of course, we wanted to come in and help. And as Ron knows now, when I come along, so does the camera. So we filmed it all, and I think we made some entertaining but informational content for you guys out there who are looking to LS swap your square bodies. So really appreciate you guys tuning in. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please consider doing so. Hit that thumbs up button down below the screen if you like what you saw here today. Definitely check out some of the other videos and look down in the description for some of that content we've been talking about in this Q&A. And leave us a comment. Let us know what you think about Pecos and how Two Trucks Ron's awesome square body turned out. Appreciate you, man. This has been a lot of fun. Thanks for sitting down and doing this with me. Thanks for the help, man. Yeah, it's been great. So we'll catch you next time on Whitlock Garage.
Cue the music.